Welcome to our daily look at the race for the French presidency. Today begins a new phase, the official election campaign. That means that both TV and radio broadcasters are subject to very strict rules requiring them to give all candidates exactly equal airtime. So for every minute they spend talking about Nicolas Sarkozy, they also need a minute of anti-capitalist candidate Philippe Poutou at 0.5% in the polls. Well, for more on this, I'm joined by our press reviewer, Elena Casas. Tell us more about these extraordinary rules, Elena.
Well, as you said, French broadcasters from today on for the next 2 weeks are forced to give all 10 candidates exactly equal airtime. The resulting situation is more than a little bit farcical, unfortunately, and lots of them are really starting to complain about it now because in that field of 10, alongside the candidates you've heard of, there's lots of others. There's anti-capitalist Nathalie Arthaud, Philippe Poutou, Jacques Cheminade, who believes we should be investing in building habitation on the moon. So they're quite, some quite eccentric candidates in there, and it seems quite a long shot for the broadcasters to devote as much airtime to them as they do to Sarkozy. So, but the CSA, which is France's broadcasting authority, has got really very strict rules on this and will impose harsh fines on TV stations who break the rules. So they're forced to find different ways around it. The result is often that they just don't talk about politics, which seems crazy 2 weeks before the presidential election. But a lot of the main terrestrial channels have actually cancelled their politics shows for the next 2 weeks because it's so impossible to balance them. And advertisers aren't exempt from this either. The Nouvelle Obs reports today that a right-wing think tank has been heavily fined for putting ads on TV that seemed to back Nicolas Sarkozy, even though they didn't explicitly mention him by name. They supported some of his policies, so that's fallen foul of them. Now, one way broadcasters are going to try and get around this is that they're going to host 2 big debates this Wednesday and Thursday night, which supposedly will bring all 10 candidates together. They decided that was practically impossible, so they're going to do 5 on Wednesday night and 5 on Thursday night. But as the Huffington Post explains, it's still going to be a rather, well, not really a proper debate. It's going to be more like a hustings, in which each candidate is going to get a fixed amount of minutes to put forward their own views. They won't really be debating in the sense of confronting one another because the channels have concluded really that it would be impossible to moderate with so many different candidates. Now, the Huffington Post says if they are allowed to attack one another at all, it's probably just going to be the lowest common denominator sort of discourse. You're lying, you can't say that. So we can't expect much intellectual substance from it, they say, so they're not quite sure what the point of the exercise is.
It might not be terribly much clearer afterwards than we were before then. What about the campaign ads? They're also to be launched officially today.
Yes, very strict rules about these as well. The official campaign broadcast ads, they're allowed to make 2 clips, one of 1.5 minutes, one of 3.5 minutes. They'll only be allowed to be played a maximum of 10 times each between now and the election of the next 2 weeks. And there's also a lot of restrictions on what they can put in those ads. They can't name their opponents specifically. They can't attack opponent-specific policies, as Slate explains. They can't have famous people being the voice of the party. They can't name well-known brands. Of course, this cuts out so much, the article says, that effectively the ads just end up being as dull as possible. To see what they're complaining about, here's a bit of Sarkozy's ad clip from 2007.
My dear fellow countrymen, I'm a presidential candidate first and foremost to take action. Taking action is my passion in life. For the last 25 years, you've been told that nothing can be done, that nothing is possible. Fatalism is not part of my vocabulary.
Well, it's not the most thrilling clip, is it, Melissa?
No, I'm sure they could have done better than that.
Well, if you compare that to countries where there are no restrictions, like in the US, where they can broadcast virtually any kind of political ad. Here's one by Newt Gingrich attacking Mitt Romney from a couple of months ago. See how harsh they're allowed to be.
What has Massachusetts given us? A liberal governor who wanted us to believe he is strong on defense. A liberal senator who wanted us to believe he was a man of the people. And a Massachusetts moderate who runs away from Ronald Reagan.
Look, I was an independent during the time of Reagan-Bush.
The difference is huge then, isn't it? This US campaign's been really marked by quite harsh attacking ads
very
against
personal,
one another.
of course.
Absolutely. French candidates not allowed to do anything like that. The thing is, though, despite these really strict rules existing on TV, you can make any video you like and circulate it on the internet where everyone can see it and where there are no rules, which means that the official rules about TV campaigning have been sort of overtaken by modern ways of doing campaigning, so they're becoming more and more irrelevant, really, if you look at some of the much harsher clips that are circulating on the internet. Here's one made by the Young Socialists directly attacking Sarkozy.
Nicolas Sarkozy has been continuing his party's campaign. Ready to do anything to become the rock star at the polls, to have the chance to replay his favourite game, the one that plunges you into another reality. He wants to recreate the epic tale that brought him to power, as he declares that he'll vanquish his rivals. even if he needs to recall generals from old battlefields to pillage the message of the National Front, targeting invading immigrants under the guise of fighting a terrorist threat, pitting the ordinary people against the posh Parisians.
That's the harsh, biting attack ads that are circulating on the internet. Of course, there are also parodies of the existing campaigns, some of which are completely ridiculous. Here's some of Hollande's campaign put to the track of a Sean Paul song.
Hold on to the dream. Hold on now. Hold on and believe. No, we already won.
So really, from the harsh and attacking to the ridiculous, you've got there circulating on the internet. Of course, this is bound to happen now, isn't it, with where everyone can make their own videos and stick them on YouTube.
Especially where restrictions have been so great on ordinary broadcasters.
Exactly, it makes them start to look ridiculous, doesn't it?
Elena Casas with Campaign Chronicles, thanks very much for all of that. We're just coming up to 10 o'clock.